Welcome back to What the Truck. It's Monday, August 25th. I'm Thomas Wasson. Gonna have a really fun show today. Of course, it's all about trucks, especially in this episode. We're gonna have the folks at Travelers on in this first half talking about driver health and wellness on the road. And then later on, we're gonna be talking with the folks at Kenworth, both Sarah Abernathy and Alex Reid. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff, especially trucks for What the Truck. So before we dive in, of course, we've got some news and headlines. These are courtesy of the FreightWaves site. But before I even dive into that, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Verizon Business. Kick the app.
Big,
Small.
Essential.
big,
Small.
essential,
Small.
essential,
Grande.
Pequeño.
Esencial. No matter what business you're in, Verizon Business has the network and solutions you need to power it.
From the facility to the fleet, Verizon Business gives you real-time visibility into your supply chain so you can keep on trucking ahead of demand and the competition. Learn more at verizon.com/distribution. Check them out, Verizon Business. Got to give them a shout out. All right, let's dive into some headlines real quick. This first one involves the folks at NFI. FreightWaves' John Kingston writes that NFI's driver misclassification case in New Jersey could reach individual payouts of $50,000. A decade long misclassification lawsuit involving claims by drivers who hauled freight for NFI is being settled for more than $5 million in total, with a possible per driver payout between $30,000 and more than $50,000. If you don't know what's been going on, the case had started back in June of 2015 as a lawsuit filed by a handful of drivers who delivered to Trader Joe's grocery stores out of two Pennsylvania distribution centers. It was later widened to become a class action. It's being settled in the U.S. District Court for New Jersey for $5.75 million, according to documents filed with the court last week. Drivers eligible for a payout delivered freight for NFI from Trader Joe's distribution centers in the Pennsylvania towns of Nazareth and Hartfield. The group consists of approximately 119 drivers, according to the document. In other news, we're switching gears here. Imports have continued to slide after an early peak. Zach Strickland writes that bookings of containers are down 20% since early July. So if you're looking for that data in the Sonar chart, the bookings of containers bound for the U.S. is IOTI. It had fallen 20% over the past 6 weeks. This signals that importers may have fully recovered from an early year inventory concerns. After plunging in May, imports had surged to an early peak when the president paused the 145% tariff on Chinese goods. Now companies appear to be trying to avoid another inventory hangover as questions persist about the health of the consumer. What does this mean for transportation markets in the rest of the year? Well, one of the big things has been shifts in sourcing. Strickland writes that upstream, one of the biggest shifts has been the continued pullback from China. Import bookings from China are down 25% year over year, while Vietnam is one of the few countries showing annual growth as of last week. Well, for China, though, they have offset much of the decline, however, as the total export bookings remain nearly flat compared to 2024, according to Sonar data. The takeaway is that global trade flows are rapidly adjusting according to Trump's ongoing negotiations, forcing both carriers to rebalance their trade lanes. So keep an eye out on that. One of the things to watch, of course, is the amount of blank sailings. Finally, in other news, we are on the rails. BNSF and CSX have announced a new joint intermodal and international intermodal service. This cooperation follows news of the UP-NS merger proposal. This is from trains.com. So BNSF Railways and CSX announced that this intermodal partnership will offer seamless domestic coast-to-coast service, plus a new intermodal service linking BNSF's Kansas City terminal with CSX served ports in the East Coast. So more news on the rail. Continue to keep an eye on that as we get further developments. Let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's bring on our first guest. Today we're going to be welcoming Monica Rinaldi. So we're going to be talking about driver wellness and mental health. And Monica, super excited to have you on the show. You're the product manager of medical innovations and strategy at Travelers, and very excited. So let's dive in. And before we get going here, wanted to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to dive into driver wellness.
Hi, everyone. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here today. This is such a big issue in the industry and one that I'm really glad we're talking about more. As you said, I'm a claim product manager of medical innovation and strategy here at Travelers. I'm a nurse by background, and this is a topic very near and dear to my heart.
Dive right into it. One of the big things is if anyone has been around truckers, it's a very demanding job. And so when we're thinking about some of these mental health challenges, what are some of the biggest ones that they're facing, especially for those long haul truckers?
There's a lot. Long hours, overnight shifts, sleep disruptions, constant stress. Then you add in isolation, tight delivery windows, a lack of routine. It can really take a toll. Long haul, especially, can require you to work under conditions that can really wear you down, both the body and the mind.
And I think the isolation one is really important because you're thinking going out on weeks of a time, especially if you're managing over the road drivers. When I had them, you had to stay out for like 2 to 3 weeks just to get a day off at home. And that was back in the day. Let's talk about that factor of isolation because it can be very
Yeah.
lonely in that cab.
Yeah, absolutely. You miss birthdays, holidays, all the small things that connect you to your family, even to your community. And, while technology can let the drivers check in with home, it's really no substitute for an in person connection. That social isolation can turn into loneliness, even depression. Worse yet, even if a driver wants help, it's not always easy to get. Access is a huge issue. Many drivers, especially independents, don't have access to healthcare. And even for those who are full time employees, just getting back to home base to see a provider can be a challenge. And if you're crossing state lines, some virtual mental health visits aren't allowed if you're not in the same state as the provider.
And that's one of the crazy aspects. You mentioned the insurance aspect. I think it was the last
Mm,
time I looked at the data, it was like 40% of these smaller fleets and owner ops, like 40% of the drivers just don't have insurance. And so we're
right.
talking about the physical health component. That's a big challenge because driving is a very sedentary job. Your hours in the
Mhm.
seat on the road. Talk more about this physical health aspect because it can be, unless you have a game plan for wellness, that could be the silent killer while you're just trying to make a living.
Right. It's not just about mental stress. Drivers can also face poor nutrition, lack of exercise, long hours, like you said, sitting behind the wheel. Over time, that can lead to things like obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes. All of these physical stressors can make mental health worse too. It's all very interconnected. And then to make matters worse, you've got the job itself. You have high stakes, stress, it's exhausting. You've got deadlines, compliance, even weather to deal with. It just all really adds up. Then, when drivers aren't getting sleep, that's where it gets very dangerous. So, there is research that shows that being awake for 24 hours is like driving drunk. That's a real risk for truckers. Then, if they take stimulants just to help them get through, that can lead to dependency, major safety issues, but both for the driver and then everybody else on the road too.
The sleep aspect, that's super important. I can
Yeah.
attest, having worked a third shift job, I was up 24 hours,
Mm.
and it definitely I was like, "Oh, no, I haven't been drinking any," but boy, it feels a little crazy. So
Yep.
that's a huge thing, especially the sleep aspect. Another aspect that we're looking at is trying to overcome stigma. So, trucking is traditionally a male-dominated industry, and when we're thinking about the culture of drivers as well, mental health is one of those things where we're kind of in the very early stages of getting people to think about it because of all these stigmas. Dive into some of that because that
Yeah.
half the battle, it feels like, is getting someone to say that they may need help and then helping get them to use the resources available to get over that hump.
Yes, absolutely. So that's really the heart of it. Many drivers, especially men, don't want to admit that they're struggling. They're worried it's going to affect their job. It might make them look weak. And even like when they want help, they don't always know where to go. So that can lead to very poor coping skills. And some drivers turn to alcohol or drugs. Now, research does show that male dominated professions have more stigma related to mental health treatment. So many of these issues often go untreated. And individuals who have untreated mental health conditions are likely to have what we call maladaptive coping skills, which can lead them to use drugs or alcohol to help them cope and get through.
Maladaptive coping skills is that's kind of the word of the day. I feel like that's one of the big challenges is you got to identify, are you coping with it? How are you currently coping with it? And then there's a better way to cope with it without needing to
Yeah.
use stimulants or other type of stuff.
Yes.
So let's talk about what we can do about it, because there's got to be some kind of silver lining to this. One of the good things, of course, is we're getting more information about it. So that's one positive. But if I'm a company and especially the industry, what are some of the things that we can do to help try to address this?
Yeah, absolutely. Things are definitely changing. I think that we need to take a more proactive, driver centered approach and make sure that mental health is treated as part of the overall driver safety. So, what does that mean? That means wellness campaigns, stronger employee assistance programs. Fleet managers need training to recognize red flags. The World Health Organization actually defines health as physical, mental, and social well being. So, if you don't have the mental part, or if that's a struggle, you don't have good overall health. So, we definitely need to support all three components. And then mental wellness can help lead to better performance, fewer incidents, longer careers. And that can help improve driver retention at a time when it's very challenging to find good drivers. So, giving these drivers these tools to manage stress, it's good for them, but it's also a smart business move.
One of my favorite stories was a company was using inward cameras, and for driver wellness, the cameras noticed that five of the drivers had sleep apnea because they could tell the fatigue. And so this company was like, "We're going to start a new campaign. We're going to help pay for you to go get the treatments. We're going to take care of you. You're going to get the CPAP machines." And the crazy part was, the guy told me afterwards, the drivers went from being some of the lowest performing drivers to some of the best performing drivers just because it was one of the ways to help address driver wellness, especially when it comes to getting enough sleep.
Absolutely. So important.
And Monica, I really appreciate you coming on the show as well. If folks want to learn more about some of the stuff you're working on at Travelers, or try to get some more information, maybe they're like, "I want to help create a driver program to help kind of tackle some of these." What is the best way to get more information about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like we said, this is really about keeping people safe physically and mentally. I would definitely encourage today's listeners to check out some of our resources at travelers.com. I would specifically look at our risk control resources. And then, as well, we have a white paper published on employee mental well being, and our Travelers Institute has put that out. And it's very helpful information.
We'll definitely have to check it out. Monica, thank you so much for hopping on the show. It was your first time. Congratulations as well. And especially with a live show, I'm super excited to see what y'all are working on. And we definitely hope to speak with you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We're going to switch gears for a minute. We have some breaking news here, courtesy of the FreightWaves.com website. I was holding to see if it would come out. The breaking news is the American Trucking Association has been hit with allegations of employment and race discrimination. FreightWaves' John Kingston writes that three plaintiffs allege age, one charge of racial discrimination. Let's dive in here. So here it is. Here's the story. The American Trucking Association is facing allegations of age and racial discrimination from three employees it fired in 2024. The three plaintiffs who are alleging age discrimination were working for ATA's Transport Topics magazine and related media offerings. Grant, they're also charging the ATA with racial discrimination, and is a suit filed last Thursday in the U.S. District Court in the District of Columbia. According to the lawsuit, the employees at Transport Topics were awaiting word that day on a new publisher and strategy for the media property. And while there were changes made, no new publisher was named, and three workers were let go prior to the meeting to announce a new management structure. On the day of the firing, the plaintiffs had worked at the ATA for over 12 years. One of the filings, her name was Grant. She was 60 and had worked at the ATA for 12 years. She was also the managing editor at Transport Topics. Keep an eye on this as well as we get further developments, but it does look like that they were just recently served with a lawsuit. So this is a developing story and breaking news. You can find more information on the freightwaves.com main site. All right, let's switch gears a little bit here, real quick. We're going to be bringing on our next guest. We're super excited to be welcoming on Sarah Abernathy. She's the Director of Marketing and Communications at Kenworth. We're going to be talking about the Transition Trucking Award. Sarah, absolute pleasure to get to catch you back up again. I remember the last time I think we caught up was about the hexagon agility stuff, so super excited to see what y'all are working on over on Kenworth.
Yeah, great to be back. Thank you so much, Thomas, for having me. We're really excited to talk about transition trucking, jumping into a new role, and we're looking forward to highlighting some excellent veterans who have transitioned over to transportation. So, looking forward to speaking more about it.
Let's dive into it. The first thing, of course, for folks who may not be aware of, what is transition in trucking?
The Transition Trucking Driving for Excellence Award is really a joint initiative, and that has gone on for the last 10 years. And it's between Kenworth, Fastport, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Hiring Our Heroes program, and all of these entities come together to really highlight American service members who have transitioned into transportation, moving into that trucking industry, and that have excelled at it, and that they demonstrate the very best that you can be on the road and tie it back to their military service. So it's a really great award. It's a really great program, and we're so proud to be a partner for the last 10 years now. It's our decade with Transition Trucking, so we're great to be a part of it.
Well, here's the 10 more years. I like some of the facts on your site as well. This is speaking of veteran outreach, according to the site, it's estimated 205,000 service members exit the armed forces each year. And when we're thinking about trying to find ways to help veterans, one of the big things from veteran friends is imagine you've been in the military for years, at least 4, sometimes decades. What do you do afterwards? So talk a little bit about how this outreach program, because I think it's really cool to see that several of these major carriers are making efforts to boost their veteran driving populations.
Yeah, so there's a lot of outreach that goes into the overall program, and specifically with, the finalists and the program that we head towards the end of the year with. There is a Veteran Ready Summit. So all of the finalists, semifinalists that come into the program, they will then participate in kind of a summit and a knowledge sharing experience that helps them to really get ready and move forward in their careers. Moving from the military side of things over to transportation, obviously, like you're mentioning, that transition is not easy, and there are so many great fleets out there. There are so many great resources that are available for veterans to get their footing and excel in the transportation industry. And doing so with a great truck like a Kenworth T680 is something that we're proud to be a part of. I see on the screen here you're highlighting some of the other outreach that we have, and looking at that WyoTech training side of things. There's so many different resources that Kenworth is involved in and helping to get both veterans and generally involved in the community. All of this comes together to make sure that folks are, doing the very best that they can in whatever walk of life they're in, especially from that veteran transition over to transportation.
And one of the things that I was thinking of was usually there's the GI Bill, and one of the things that I think of my research is folks are trying to help use that for CDL schools. So there's definitely a pipeline in terms of getting information saying, hey, there's some resources because a lot of community colleges have CDL programs. So is that one of the ways to also bring awareness so these folks can get in? Is making sure they understand that they have resources if they did buy into the GI Bill, that it can also help them as they're looking for this career.
Yep, absolutely. Trade schools, carriers, there's a lot of different folks that can play into that and be that resource for folks coming out of the military. In fact, actually, the selection committee that helps select our finalists and semifinalists, those are kind of comprised of folks that are participating from suppliers, trade schools, associations, and all of those specific knowledge bases that can help folks be the most successful as they move into the transportation industry.
And when we're talking about how the finalists are selected, are they current drivers, prospective drivers? Give us a background in terms of if maybe I'm a veteran or somebody, what would it kind of take in order to be considered?
Yeah, so it's generally going to be your current drivers. You do have to, have an active CDL, of course, a certified CDL, and you would need to have been having been driven in the last year, so for 2025, have a CDL as of January 1, 2024, so that past year. And then really it's just you have to demonstrate those, exemplary characteristics, be excelling at what you do, be the best that you can be, and highlight and tie back to your military service. That's what really brings you into the fold and into that consideration for to be a semifinalist and hopefully to win that transition trucking driving for excellence award.
One of the things I like on your website, you for the semifinalists that were announced, not only did you show their rank, the carrier, but also the means that they got in, the driving schools, which I think that's one of the things we don't do in the industry a good enough job, especially with recent conversations about driver safety, is showcasing the drivers who are doing it right and giving a shout out to the schools who are helping those drivers. Because from recent conversations, picking the right driving school and the right carrier turns out is kind of a big deal. So it's kind of a double way to showcase not only the veterans, but also the places that are helping them.
Yep, absolutely. And those CDL schools are so integral to, a driver's education. Speaking from experience, I do have my CDL and the education is there's a lot that goes into getting your CDL. You have to have a lot of knowledge and a lot of the way that you get that and retain it and practice it and put it to work is thanks to the CDL school that you go through. And all of the ones that are highlighted here, I won't name them off, but there are quite a few, and they are part of what are going to make these semifinalists go the distance is the education that they received, and we're really excited to have so many different CDL schools as well. There's a lot of them around the country. They are great resources for folks who are drivers to go back to, but of course if you're looking to get your CDL, reaching out to your local CDL school, accredited of course, would be a great way to get started.
And let's talk about next steps. We have the semifinalists announced here. The grand prize, of course, is a T680 Signature Edition. So it's got a 76-inch sleeper and a PACCAR powertrain. It's got the MX-13 at 455 horses. And so, talk about what the next steps are, and then we can dive into the event as well. That's going to highlight the ultimate winner.
Yeah, so we just had our semifinalists announced, of course, earlier in August. So that list has been published. I know you already highlighted it. We're going to be then bringing all of those semifinalists out to Ohio later in September for our semifinalist recognition. And that will be kind of an action packed 2 days. We'll have our semifinalists tour the National Veterans Memorial and Museum out in Ohio, and then they'll tour the Kenworth Chillicothe manufacturing facility not far down the road there. From that later, or I should say at the end of that event, later in September, our finalists will be announced. We'll have interviews that will be posted online for folks to then begin voting. That voting will then end on Veterans Day, November 11th, before our winners are announced in DC on December 12th. So that's kind of our next steps here. It'll be a wild few months heading into December, but we're really excited to highlight as many of these wonderful veterans as we can moving into that finalist period in December.
And I know you mentioned the event earlier. Tell us again about the event where the finalists are going to be announced in DC. We can do a quick promo for the DC event if folks are interested in attending.
Yeah, so in DC, it actually is going to be our winner announcement. So our finalists are going to be announced in Ohio just here in September. And then we'll have our final winner. The grand prize winner will actually drive away in their T680 later in December. And that will be over at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington, D.C. So it's going to be a great time of the year. DC is beautiful around the holidays if you haven't been. And so we'll look forward to highlighting our partners, Fastport, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, along with that beautiful T680, which will speak for itself. And we'll look forward to handing off the keys to our winner this year.
And I love the plant tours. I got to go down to Chillicothe sometimes because those things are remarkable. And so, is there anything special about the customization for this truck that came off the plant? Because that was the one thing that blows my mind is when you're building a Class 8, they're so customizable. Was there any specific things that the winner can show off that maybe you normally don't put inside the base models?
Absolutely. This is actually going to be kind of our top end spec here. It'll have a diamond VIT interior. That's the finest, most plush interior that we offer. You already mentioned it's a 76-inch sleeper. So again, the largest sleeper, most comfortable driver's truck that you can spec. It'll also feature some technology features that we're really excited about. So our driver assistance systems like adaptive cruise control, as well as our digital vision mirror system, which if you haven't seen that, that's something that folks take a bit to get used to, but is great for visibility in all conditions. They're excellent to drive with. And we're really excited just about everything on this truck. We wanted to spec it to be the absolute best for the absolute best in the sense that this driving to excellence word is going to be hopefully life changing for someone, and we want to make sure they are really feeling the love and the special truck that they're going to be driving away with.
Perfect, Sarah. Thank you so much for hopping on as well. We'll be talking with Alex shortly, in addition. But if folks want to learn more about this event and sign up to vote, and that way more folks can get involved, what's the best way to get more information?
Yeah, absolutely. Head to kenworth.com for some more information. That's where all of our press and information on the Transition Trucking Award it resides. And you can also take a look at Fastport's website for some more information as well, and get all of that semifinalist information. Take a look at their driver profiles once they're posted following our event in September. And then we'll be right on our way to December.
Perfect, Sarah. Thank you so much again. We'll catch up. We'll catch up soon.
Great to see you, Thomas. Thank you so much for having me.
We're gonna do a quick. We don't have commercial breaks in this thing. I think they have the commercial breaks in later. We have some videos of stuff that I was going to throw on real fast. One of them may possibly be cow jazz. The other one is horns. Let's do it. Let's see if we got cow jazz. Toss it on. Coming through live right now with the cow jazz. Oh, this is it. I wanted to talk over it. So if you're ever having a bad day, you can have some cow jazz. It gets better. If I watched this in advance, so this isn't like a live take. There's a whole orchestra as it slowly devolves into jazz for calves. Also, shout out to Tiny Bull Holler. If they ever find a video or if she ever is back on social media, I wonder if you can lure the bulls and the cows with the sounds of music and see if you can tame the beasts. I always wondered if there was a certain way to get them in there. Listeners, if you don't have the video, there's an entire New Orleans style jazz band of 4 dudes standing in front of the cows just going at it. All right, let's dive into some more stuff here. It was glorious. I'm a sucker for the music and the arts, and so in the event that you don't have any culture or you need your dose of culture or you need some of the jazz culture, I've got you covered. We have cow jazz. Shout out to the folks as well. There's another one I may promo later on. Somebody has a live feed of chicken coops, and it is a live stream. So we're going to maybe try that and later on this week, the live streaming of chicken coops. And then I also have found a video of horns, which we're going to figure out the audio on that one. It's a little bit loud. I plugged it in with my headphones, and it nearly made me go deaf. So while we're waiting on Alex to get brought in here, we'll dive into more about this ATA thing as well. This one is fascinating. So when you're looking at whenever you get allegations of types of discrimination, normally what happens is you have an EEOC suit. That's the first step where you're like, hey, equal opportunity employment, let me check it out. I'm alleging something's going on. The EEOC actually performs a months-long a check into seeing if whether or not you have the right to sue or not sue. So at the end of this, the EEOC has one of 3 possible options. One of them is no, nothing happened, you can't do it. The second option is, well, stuff may have happened, but we don't know, which is like 90 to 95% of most EEOC outcomes. And then the final one was, yes, stuff totally did happen, and we'll help you with the case, is the other option. So this is definitely some breaking news, especially when it comes to cuts. Given the environment of freight right now, this is going to be a wild story. But let's switch gears a little bit here. We're going to be talking again with the folks at Kenworth. This one is Alex Reid. He's the vocational marketing manager at Kenworth. We're talking about the W900 Legacy Edition. Y'all have been cooking it up, but this one's kind of a bittersweet one because, as I understand it, it is the final special edition of the W900. Let's see if we got Alex in.
Number of special editions over the years, but this is a special one for us. We're coming down to the end of production for a really truly legendary model in the industry, and we really wanted to make sure we sent it off right. So that's what we have here with our Legacy Edition for the W900L.
And it was featured at the Jamestown Engine Plant. One of the cool things about it is it has a specific engine color and like a special vintage. I'm not as familiar with for drivers, the vintage, the coloring, the interiors. This is all the talk of the town. Tell us some of the special details about that as well that make it special, because I would have never thought even something like an engine block color could be some of the accents.
Exactly. So the W900's been in continuous production since we launched it in 1963. And a lot of what we wanted to focus on with this particular special edition was the heritage of the truck and the special things that drivers and owners and operators remember about it over the years. One of those, like you mentioned, is the engine color. So we partnered with Cummins on this truck to offer a color that hasn't been in OEM production for a number of years. But if you had a truck sometime in the 70s or 80s, or a used truck in the 90s, you'll remember that beige color of the engine from the Cummins Big Cam series. We wanted to bring that back as just a piece of nostalgia, and it ties into the heritage of the truck that's been on the road for so long supporting drivers.
And I think that's wild. I had no idea that that same style had been around since 1963. It's almost like, how you see the aviators, where the iconic style for sunglasses, something you kind of get used to. When we're looking at how many of these are being made for this iconic one, how special is the special edition? Is it something where limited supplies, or is this going on for like a year or two? What are some of the details if folks are looking to upgrade before it's too late?
Yeah, so this is going to be like some of our previous special editions. The Legacy editions are capped at 1,000 units total. Unlike what we've done in the past, though, the Legacy edition is going to be numbered in reverse. Since this is counting down to the end of production for this model, we wanted number one to be that very last W900 that rolls off our assembly line in Renton, and that's going to be next year. So we've built the number 1,000 truck already. That's the one that you're watching on your screen right now. And as we build the rest of this series of trucks, it'll count down to number one.
And are these so they all have a similar are they similarly spec'd when addition to the color, or out of these the thousands, if I'm like ordering one, do I get to like specifically kit it out, or is it specifically designed as this limited edition, all 1000 are like the same kind of spec? I'm always curious about that. I was asking Sarah as well. There's way too many combinations and it fries my brain.
Well, I'm sure she told you, but a Kenworth is a custom truck. Anything that you want, we can do. So there's a few things on this truck that are going to come as part of that Legacy Edition package. It is a VIT interior on every single one of them, finished in all black with platinum accents. So you'll see that platinum coloring in the stitching, on the back wall embroidery, on your steering wheel. The dash trim and door trim is a special color for this truck. You get that vintage crooked Kenworth logoing throughout the truck, starting right at the front of the hood, on the sides of the hood, on all the doors and thresholds. That's unique to the Legacy Edition. But there's a bunch of stuff about this truck that is classic Kenworth. Your sleeper selection, you can do it as a extended day cab, a 72-inch flat top sleeper, or an 86-inch studio. Your paint color is entirely up to you. Your wheelbase, tire, and axle combinations, everything that makes a Kenworth is still selectable by the owner. But with that paint in mind, we are offering a number of special curated paint schemes for this model. So we've picked 11 paint schemes out of our paint book from the decades that we think are really emblematic of what the W900 looked like on the road over the years. Some iconic looks of the truck. The first one of those, again, you're seeing on the screen now. We call that one the VIT 63 edition. What's special about that one is it's actually the very first paint scheme that we ever put on a W900. So the first truck we built in 1963 was painted the same way, with that single stripe in green and white. That's one of our special paint schemes, but you'll recognize. So we have the Comet paint scheme that came out in the early 90s. Some of our classic ones from the 70s and 80s. You'll see Midnight Sun is in there. There's previous special editions available as well. So the Gold Nugget is back. So is the VIT 200 and the Liberty, as well as the editions. So those are paint schemes that you've seen over the years and had a particular affinity for. We do have those all ready to go for all these configurations of the Legacy Edition. We have paint colors pre-selected if you'd like to match the original look. But again, it's a custom truck, so if you'd like that same paint scheme in your own color, absolutely go for it.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm torn between the Comet and the Golden Nugget. The Comet one looks exactly like, the 80s synthwave with the long stripes, but the Golden Nugget, that one is definitely alluring as well. So that's where I always wondered if I could just order these things, and let's say I want to buy the Legacy Edition and it's like, man, I want to have like the Golden Nugget. Then that's something you can do, and that's just part of the process because so I wish we should have got some photos. These things are so cool. I'm a sucker for like old school retro looking art, and especially with the fancy colorations like that. That's neat.
Hmm. Absolutely. We're really excited about the opportunity to bring back some of those paint schemes. The highways were full of unique paint and bright colors back in the day, and we think that people are really going to love having that option all ready to go for the Legacy Edition. They're going to be really unique trucks, and we can't wait to see what people do with them.
And one of the questions I had, I guess, over the course of its lifetime, does it have you have the gauges and stuff? I'm assuming it's a blending of both the old school technology, but also there's some newer stuff that's within the vehicle. That was one of my biggest questions I've always had was when you're making something very vintage, do you keep it all old school, or is there stuff where there's more modern things being put in, like quality of life? Because I can imagine the biggest one I'm assuming is like steering or something. Sometimes rack and pinion where you're you're getting tossed around.
No, no, the W900 it's a modern chassis and steering setup, so you'll find that very comfortable. But it is one of the most classic trucks you can buy in the industry. So we still have an all analog gauge package, the W900. Fire dash with analog gauges if that's what you choose to do. It really is the driver's truck, so you can put all of that information right in front of you for convenience. And of course, the Studio Sleeper is legendary for being one of the biggest stand-up sleepers in the industry, with the Vista windows, the sofa bed, the second fold-down bunk. There's not a more comfortable truck on the road.
I was wondering about the difference between the 72-inch and the 85-inch. So that's the one with the little bay windows and stuff, compared to your traditional kind of cab over, like.
Yeah, so the 72-inch flat top is kind of that same roof line through from the cabin to the sleeper. The 86-inch Studio has that Aerodyne roof with the two Vista windows in the front. So a little more height on it there, and of course more length. So nice big sleeper there for going over the road.
So let's talk looking ahead. We've got this final limited run. Is this something where will we see another kind of more retro looking tractor, or is this going to be something where it's really kind of the end of an era in terms of this body style, the long nose, the very nice blocky features? Talk a little bit about kind of is there anything ahead as well as we're celebrating this the final run of this iconic brand.
Kenworth is always working on new products to meet our customers' needs. So you'll remember that we launched the W990 back in 2018. That is a traditional long hood model based on our newer 2.1 meter cab platform. And we've continued introducing new content for that truck over the years. Most recently would be a 52-inch flat top sleeper. So you can get the really traditional look on the W990 as well. We've seen lots of people do uh, very nice builds out of that truck, three color paint. Really iconic on that model as well. And then, of course, there's always future models under wraps somewhere in the future. Don't know what those will look like yet, but we do appreciate hearing from our customers and what they want in a truck, and those that feedback always goes into our products.
And one of the questions you had mentioned earlier was the type of the model type. That's why I was curious is if the 990 versus the 900, if it has, I guess, a different kind of base that's being transitioned, or if it's more of the stuff going over the top of it.
Yeah, so the Kenworth chassis you'll find to be very similar between the two models. The biggest difference between the two is going to be the cab and the hood. So from W900 to W990, it does move from our 1.9 meter platform to our 2.1 meter platform. which brings a lot more technology, driver comfort, lower noise. Really, the very latest and greatest in interiors and driver comfort on that W990 model.
And you have your title says vocational, so I got to ask a dump truck related question here. When we're talking about the
Absolutely.
Legacy Edition, can I also kit this thing out for vocational use, or is the W900 most like on highway, over the road kind of applications?
You can absolutely put into vocational applications. I've seen plenty of dump trucks built on W900s before, so it's happy to be a tractor, and it's just as happy to go be a vocational truck. So if you can dream it, you can build it.
I gotta ask, how many? Here's a quiz time. How many possible permutations can I have for a vocational truck if I'm just looking at the outcomes? I've heard in excess of a few thousand.
I think it would be more like tens of thousands, but I don't have enough fingers to figure that one out.
Alex, I really appreciate your time as well. Folks are interested in, I guess, purchasing, learning more about it, or just generally seeing what y'all are working on. What is the best way to get more information?
Well, you can go visit W900Legacy.com to see more information on the Kenworth website, or visit your local Kenworth dealer, and they'd be happy to show you more about the model.
Perfect. Alex, thanks again so much for your time. We'll have to catch up again soon.
Thanks so much.
We got a little bit of housekeeping coming up as well. We have not only F3, but the Freight Tech 100 award nominations. So I want to make sure that everyone is still signing up for the Freight Tech 2026 awards. So we have until, let me see here, we have until September 1st. So coming up on nearly the last week to put in your applications for your nominations. It closes on September 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday. Afterwards, we will announce the Freight Tech 100 award winners on September 22nd. And then the big one is the Freight Tech 25, where we take those 100 award winners and we narrow them down with a third party group of people and make sure that the top 25. So it's one of those things where we've had over the past few years. It's not a consortium, but it's a group of individuals to make sure that we are selecting them. You don't want to miss it. That's also the Future of Freight Festival coming up in October of this year. So instead of our November time, you want to make sure that you are paying attention. I think it is the 1st through 22nd. We have a discount code as well. So the discount code is WTTF325. That's what the truck, WTTF325. It gets you $900 off. So you don't want to miss it out. The Future of Freight Festival is held in Chattanooga, Tennessee this year. It's going to be a really, really fun one. We've got a lot of great speakers. If you want to look at the exact list of who is talking, you can go to live.freightwaves.com. While we're at it, I do have some other events coming up in the calendar here. We're going to be having on September the 10th, it is the Cross Border Logistics Summit. This one is a virtual FreightWaves TV event, and you're going to get to hear me and a few other folks interview leading companies about what's going on in the cross-border space. And then finally, before F3 on October 20th, so a day before it starts, is a hackathon. It is called the Industry Strikes Back, a freight fraud hackathon. You can register for that on live.freightwaves.com. And what it provides is free API access from top platforms, including search carriers, Genlogs, Carrier One, Sonar, and others. There's collaborative teams. We have prizes and networking opportunities. So if you want to help fight freight fraud, we have a hackathon for you. Also, a big shout out to the folks on social media and various platforms who have been not only researching unsafe carriers, but bringing more attention to this issue. And so the more the merrier, especially when it comes to trying to keep our roadways safe. Final thoughts as well as we're digging in here. We're going to have a pretty fun show coming up this week. Coming up on Wednesday, I'm going to be having the folks with Hexagon Agility onto the show. And then we're going to be having an interview with Fast Group talking about some recent changes in the parcel space. Those of you just joining us, thanks again. If you're live, we're also on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and SiriusXM, wherever you can get your podcast needs. I'm Thomas Wasson. It has been an absolute pleasure getting to host with you all today, and I will see you all on Wednesday. Stay tuned, stay safe.